If someone was writing a book on your life, what would you want the last chapter to say and why?
Okay. Well,
Jonathan O is the founder of Leorêver.
He built a brand that turned heads, but behind the scenes, he was breaking.
He nearly lost everything. Now, his compression wear dominates the pickleball space.
Worn, repped, and even slept in by some of the sport's top athletes.
yeah, exploring my spiritual side, right? But I think what that whole experience did, it opened up my mind to, regardless of how I was raised or the good things and bad things that happened to me, it's my personal choice, my personal will to now take that and then go out and create the life, to create the person that I want to be, not the person that I was taught to be, which was important. Like, I had great parents. I'm very fortunate. I had great parents. But a lot of things they told me that as I grew older, those things really weren't right. They were told to me within this context of them going through World War II in camps, and the whole experience of being Japanese American, like everything they taught me, this level of fear or anxiety or whatever it is, to keep me safe. I need to break free from that too, to find this person that I really want to be beyond what they taught me to be. Right?
If someone was writing a book on your life, what would you want the last chapter to say and why?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna leave this with one of my credos.
Yeah, I love that.
Do it the hard way.
Okay, tell us why. So many people listening are going to resonate and connect with that and be able to take action from it too, knowing that somebody else also went through it. Somebody else also had struggles. Somebody else also was in the place of bankruptcy, and look where you are now. So I just thank you for sharing all that today. Just so much knowledge.
Well, thanks, Alec. It was great to be on your show. A lot of fun. You got me talking about a lot of things that I haven't even thought about in a while. I'm talking about rock, paper, scissors. I'm talking about craft paper and pencils and rulers and French curves and things like that. And then what happens when you're cutting patterns is, like, once you come up with a pattern that you really like, that's the right one, then you have to start grading patterns, meaning that,
Huh.
I got to take the pattern that fits me, which is a small, and I have to make it fit guys like you that are much larger. So that's a lot of addition and subtraction, and you can't be like, your train of thought cannot be altered like 1 second, not even a split second, because then you lose track of what you were doing, because you have to like add a quarter of an inch here and subtract an eighth of an inch there, and it's like you can't. Once you get in that groove, like, you have to go all the way through like 10 hours. It's like doing surgery, right? Once you cut into a guy, you can't stop. You have to finish it all the way through. So that's why, like, I end up doing it, like, I might start at maybe 6 p.m. where everybody goes home, and then go all the way until 6 the next morning, because I need that continuity.
And really what you're getting at is, like, if you're making like 10 to a dozen pairs, that same exact shape that you're outlining, let's say it is a pair of the compression tights or something else, that exact same length is, or that pattern's already in your brain. Like, to actually lose that and come back there would be a difference in the actual tights themselves.
Well, what I mean is, like, okay, so you have, like, I'll make a paper pattern of say, an ankle tight, like,
Okay.
the ones that we sent you, right?
Yeah.
So the original ones were small, which was for myself. So then I would wear them and test them. And then I go, okay, this is good. It's a good product. I like it. I like the way it feels. So now I got to make the medium pattern, the large pattern, extra large pattern, double XL pattern. And so that grading, I call that, well, in the industry, we call that grading patterns.
Okay.
And like, now everything's done digitally, where it would be popped into a computer program and just like extrapolated. But the way that I made my patterns were all by paper. So drawing out in paper and then cutting it with scissors, and then using that shape to then make the real product with the fabrics, right? You trace around and cut it with the fabrics. So the reason like our patterns are so different is while I'm grading the patterns, like I'm thinking about, okay, the guy that's going to be wearing a medium, I can't just add and subtract or keep adding to certain areas. Like as a person gets bigger, they're also shaped differently. So small person typically will be shaped different than, say, like a large guy. It's not just that he's bigger in every single area, but it's the proportion of the larger person that changes too, right?
Someone awkward
So
like me.
how do you, huh?
I said someone awkward like me. Big, bit.
Yeah. So like, if
Yeah.
I was gonna make tights for hockey guys, and that was something I was really gonna do,
Yeah.
then I would have to make them bigger in the thighs and smaller in the calves and the ankles, right?
Yeah.
So, but it could be done. It
Yeah.
could be done because I made patterns for NBA basketball players. You got a guy like Brandon Ingram, unbelievable. The guy has a 30-inch waist, but he's 6'10".
That's
So
crazy.
he's a small. Like in my patterns, he's a small, but he's just really ridiculously tall. So how do you deal with that? So of course, obviously, the inseam is going to be longer, but also you have to make it longer in the rise. The distance between the crotch and the waistband has to be longer because his whole body's longer, even though he's in terms of width and circumference, he's a small. So
That makes a
those
lot
are
of
things you
sense.
have.
And you know what? It sounds like I might honestly be a small. So I have the same question. People come to me, and I don't know why this has happened, but I've been the same waist size since maybe 15 years old, maybe less. I don't. So I'm a 30 waist too. It's funny that you say that. And
Yeah, so you're small.
yeah, so that's but the thing with me, even when it comes to pants, as you can imagine, is if I go buy a 30 of anything, I am so suction cupped on both sides that it looks like a pair of tights. Like in the crotch area, in the backside, if I go buy a standard pair of pants, it looks like a set of tights on me. So I have to wear like a 32 pant just for it to be looser in the front or the back side. That makes
Right.
sense?
Yeah, and because a lot of that's being taken up by your thighs that are much bigger, right?
Mm.
So your thighs, what's happening is the material's being pulled into your thighs, and now it's being taken out of the crotch and the waist, right? So it's too tight going through the crotch because your thighs have pulled all that fabric down,
So
right? That's what's happening.
kind of building on this, like we already jumped in a little bit, so we'll backtrack, but I kind of love that we just went right into it. So when it comes to an athlete like wearing the compression wear, the tights, so to speak, how important is it for them to like have that perfect fit? Like not loose in the crotch, not loose in the calf, not loose in the thigh. Like how important is it for them to actually have something that is shaped to their body when it comes to, recovery and performance as a whole?
It's really important.
Yeah.
So one thing that's really different about our product
Yeah.
is this concept of balanced compression.
Mm.
And balanced compression is about, and this comes through like years and years of work that I did with the NBA and NFL athletes. I understood that compression worked within a bandwidth. It's like, radio waves, it works within a bandwidth. So compression that is too loose has very little benefit other than just being cosmetic. So some people will go, oh gee, well, I love these. I've heard women say, oh, I love this compression wear by so and so that I bought online because it just stretches and forms to my body, right? But then they put it on and you can see like every single lump sticking out like everywhere, and it looks really bad, right? Like you don't want something that stretches and conforms to your body. You want something that's going to structure and support your body, right?
Mm.
We're going back to the other parts about compression is the concept other than the structure and support, which is good for your fascia, right? The fascia that surrounds all your muscles holds everything in place, including your organs. In addition to that, what our compression does is it boosts your circulation of your blood and your lymphatic systems. And in order to do that, if it's too loose, obviously there's no benefit as far as improving your circulation. But also there's things called recovery compression, and a lot of those products, they're too tight. So, for example, I had full knee replacement. After I did that, they gave me this compression sock that was so tight, like literally when I took it off, everything was white. And they gave it to me to prevent blood clots. So you prevent blood clots by making it so tight no blood could go in. So a lot of people were thinking like, oh well, and there's companies out there that are selling recovery compression where like it's too tight and it cuts off your circulation, right? What how compression works though is if it's within a certain bandwidth, then it boosts your circulation. And by boosting your circulation, now it increases the pliability of your muscle tissues, which now instead of being stiff and hard, muscles that are stiff and hard tear. Now what happens is the muscles begin to stretch, become pliable, and as they stretch and become pliable, as the circulation increases, now, like let's say that you take a hit from the side, like your football guy, or let's say you're playing pickleball and you move, now your knee sort of bends this way, because your muscles are soft and pliable. Your ligaments and tendons that go into your knees and your hips, they're not taking the brunt force of that movement. If you have a hard, stiff muscle, now you make a weird movement. Now the ligaments and tendons are taking the full force and they snap and they tear. Hence, you get ACL injuries, right? But if your muscles are soft and pliable, now the muscles stretch, so your ligaments and tendons, no, it's like they're not even concerned. They're not stressed anymore because the ligaments and tendons are taking up that tension because they're just stretching. Then they snap back, and then you keep moving and going for your next shot. So those are the things. That's how balance compression works, and that's how our product works. And it's not like this is rocket science. Like what I explained to you is a very simple concept. Like, oh yeah, of course that happens, right? But the problem is that people that are making these products, they don't have the experience or the background that I had when I was developing it. And Alec, to be honest, when I was developing these products for the Los Angeles Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets and San Antonio Spurs, all these teams, and as I had the LA Chargers football team wearing the products, in the beginning, I didn't know why it worked. I just knew that the athletes were having less injuries, they had better endurance, but we didn't have necessarily the knowledge at the time. It's like when the Indians they started chewing on tree bark, right? They knew that all of a sudden, like their fevers went down and they had less aches and pains. Well, now we call that aspirin. We know how it works, but they didn't know why it worked. They just knew that it worked. So that's where sports science was when I was developing these things for the highest level athletes. Now people have told me why it works and we understand why it works. And it's very, very simple, right? I lost you. I can't hear you. Alec, I can't hear you. Huh. Are you there? Alec, are you there? I can't hear you. Are you there? I can't hear you for some reason. But I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you, Alec.
Can you hear me now?
Now I got you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I heard you the entire. I don't know what's the. I had a little bit of a glitch in my Wi-Fi here. which is unfortunate, and that's why you use the Ethernet sometimes. So,
Yeah.
anyways, to jump back in right where we left off, I wanted to start to get into your background because you started really getting into where you went from really not having that much knowledge about compression wear to then people telling you really why it was working so well. So, where did you start that really allowed you to develop this knowledge to then be an expert in compression wear?
Well, back in the 80s and 90s, there was a company called Gilda Marks, which at the time was the world's biggest women's aerobic leotard company.
Okay.
And they kind of launched that whole industry. And I was hired in 1991 to build their division in Japan. So I became a vice president for Gilda Marks, and my bosses were the co-CEOs, Gilda Marks and her husband Bob. They were my bosses, so like I got all the training from them, and um, which really meant I got the honor of going to Japan with a suitcase of samples and going door to door to department stores and basically begging for orders, right?
Okay.
But it turned out
Old
that
school.
yeah, it turned out it was like a life changing experience because it was about taking like middle aged women and um, putting them in a product that made them look 5% slimmer, and all of a sudden they see themselves in the mirror. Oh, I look so much better. Then they would start to exercise, right? And then they
Yeah.
would internalize and externalize all the changes that the compression wear. For that point, it was more about looking slimmer.
Mm.
Um, it brought those changes. So then all these positive changes would occur for them, like their self confidence would improve, their health levels would improve, like their relationships with them, like everything in their life would improve. If your self confidence and self esteem improves, right? So I just kind of fell in love with that industry, and but after 6 years, I built up that business. Um, the Marx family decided to sell that business, and so I had to find another job. But by that time, I was so in love with the clothing business and especially with that industry. Um, it left a lasting impression on me, and I wanted to understand and learn how to make those products. And so I decided to go back to the beginning. I bought a cut and sew factory that made sports uniforms like high school football uniforms and basketball
Okay.
uniforms. And so I bought this little tiny company going out of business. They had 3 elderly sewers and a bunch of old broken down sewing machines. And during the day, I would run to high schools locally and try to get orders. And then I would come back at night and be up all night trying to figure out, now, how the heck do I make it? So I had to take these old, like 20-year-old patterns for like football uniforms, jerry rig them, and then redraw them and remake them so they would fit, the new sort of idea of how football uniforms were supposed to be.
No
So,
more crop tops. Were there crop tops at the time, or what were the football uniforms at the time?
no, they were sort of long, um,
Okay.
like heavy nylon dazzle in the up here, and then like stretch mesh through the body.
Mm. Okay.
And so I was making things like that, and then football pants out of nylon double knit fabric. So I was making football pants, and so I was kind of learning by fire how to become a pattern maker, and of course I almost went out of business in the first 2 years. How we survived, I really don't know, but somehow I got through that initial learning curve and started to grow that business, and um, and learn how to make patterns. Then I got to 2010, and someone had told me, Jonathan, you should really go into making girls softball uniforms. And I thought, well, why would I do that? Like, why would I do that, Kevin? The guy's name was Kevin. He had these travel softball teams. And he said, because girls are being dressed up like boys, and it's just killed the whole sport. Like, the girls don't want to play. Parents don't want to put their kids in the sport. Like, it's just a dead sport. And I thought about it, and Oh, and about that time after he told me that, I was reading the newspaper one day, and local newspaper, and I read this article that there was this girl. She went to Modern Day High School, which out here is like, well, Modern Day High School puts out a lot of professional athletes in football, baseball, basketball.
Any
And
notable names? Any
huh?
notable names? Any notable names people would know?
Um, let's see. Oh man, it's been so long since I've been there.
You're good.
Um,
The reason
but
I
I
was
can't.
curious, yeah, I was just
There's a
curious to give
lot.
reference. Okay.
Yeah, if you Google search like athletes that came from Modern Day High School, there'd be a whole slew of them that you would know.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, so
Instead,
this girl, right?
Yeah.
So this girl, she was a senior, full ride scholar. She had a full ride scholarship to UCLA the following year, like a nationally known travel ball player, high school player. She went to practice one day, and everything's fine. She comes home and she hung herself. And I was thinking like, I wonder if I could have done something about that. If because there was a stigma, a negative stigma around like female softball players, at the time, and like I wonder if I would have been able to put her into one of my products, if it would have changed how she felt. And so I started designing this this softball pant that made girls feel like sexy and attractive, and improve their self confidence, very much like what Gilda Marks had done in the women's bodywear business for middle aged women. But now we're talking about insecure teenage girls, right? And so I developed this line of softball pants and then jerseys to help move the pants. It was a line called the Glove, and was had this little cute like heart mark, and that was our trademark. And at the time, the industry had not ever seen anything like that. But I came out with that pant um, the beginning of 2011, and we just blew up the whole industry. And people have told me like literally single-handedly we changed the sport and saved the sport, because even now, like all the companies you'll see, like they've all copied what we have done, which I don't take it as a negative thing. Like literally, I think we brought so many kids into the sport. You could be a homecoming queen and be a softball player, and you see the effect of what we've created over the last 15 years has been just phenomenal. But it goes back to the compression wear thing about how through this tight form-fitting pant, it was a performance pant, but we changed how people perceived themselves. We improved how people perceived themselves. And that's why I go back to this girl and what she went through, because if we would have changed her perception of herself, then I think it would have would heavily influence what happened to her. And the proof is just all like, I have girls who are now coaches, high school coaches, and they're coming back to us now as coaches instead of players, just telling us about how much the product meant to them and how life changing it was. So that was the beginning, believe it or not, of then taking that and later on extrapolating to that and saying, all right, taking that experience and using that to now make things for professional male athletes, and eventually becoming this men's fitness tight, and then eventually becoming also we have a women's line of tights now too.
Was there any challenges that you had in your life or your upbringing or your journey that really allowed you to empathize with a scenario that happened like that and say like, hey, I want to change lives at some capacity? Were there any challenges that really set forth for you to have a passion to want to leave some sort of impact?
You know, I can't say that there's one particular thing, but just as far as things that um, have really affected me, you know,
Yeah.
so after I got out of college, I worked as a CPA for a couple of years, and I knew that that really wasn't my calling, but it opened my eyes to a lot of different ways that people build businesses, because you're exposed to so many different kinds of businesses. And
What's a CPA for anybody listening to kind of outline?
yeah, certified public accountant. So you have all these big public accounting firms that audit um, all the big companies, and it's a whole industry. And as an auditor, you would go to different businesses and basically check their books and make sure they're correct and accurate, things like that. So you have to test their inventory and things like that. So I got exposed to like restaurants and um, steel manufacturers, like all kinds of stuff, right? It was very, very interesting, but I knew that that industry of being in public accounting wasn't something that I wanted. But after I decided to leave that and go explore, so I lived in Kyoto, Japan for 3 years and worked in a university part time, and then spent time like, sort of exploring my roots because my grandparents came from Japan. And spent time doing zazen and Zen meditation and
We'll have to talk
exploring.
about that. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
exploring
Yeah.
my spiritual side, right? But I think what that whole experience did, actually both experiences, is um, it opened up my mind to, because we're raised as kids to think that this is who we are, right? And that's what we learn. And for the rest of our life, that is a very strong, like who we're taught to be when we're young by our parents or our environment. That becomes an integral part of who we are the rest of our lives. But I think you need um, to be able to know that, yeah, that's part of me, but I also have this free will that, regardless of how I was raised or the good things and bad things that happen to me, it's my personal choice, my personal will to now take that and then go out and create the life, to create the person that I want to be, not the person that I was taught to be, which was important. Like I had great parents. I'm very fortunate. I had great parents. But a lot of things they told me that as I grew older, those things really weren't right. They were told to me within this context of them going through World War II in camps and the whole experience of being Japanese American, like everything they taught me, this level of fear or anxiety or whatever it is, to keep me safe. I need to break free from that too, to find this person that I really want to be beyond what they taught me to be, right? And that's personal will. And so, um, as I started to break free from all those things and reimagine what my life could be, like this whole idea of being, you know, a leotard salesman, in Japan, like that never would have crossed my mind when I was 10 years old, right? But I found out it was like the thing that I really loved to do. And then to go out then and create this whole company vertically integrated where we're cutting and sewing, like in this building that I'm in right now, we're cutting and sewing here. And we're shipping orders all over the country, actually all over the world from this office. So um, what what my life journey became and where it started, it was from, those ideas that I kind of formulated when I was in Kyoto.
So tell us about that experience of going over there, kind of practicing. Was it Zazen you said?
Yeah,
Is
Zazen
that the
is
practice?
sitting Zen meditation. Like Za means to sit, and of course Zen is, the meditation part of it. Um,
What employed you to want to go do that at the time? What year
well,
was this?
that was like 1985, 86. Around
Okay.
1985 to 88, somewhere around there.
Were you working for Marks at the time?
No, it was before that. That was about
Okay.
5 years before that. It was before I
Okay.
got married. So, um, you know, um, Japanese Japanese in general, like if you were to go to Japan, um, although Japanese don't call themselves religious people, um, the whole culture is built upon on Japanese Buddhism, and it's kind of a big conversation, but to kind of simplify it, um, you have Jodoshu Buddhism, which is it's sort of similar to like chanting and saying Namu Amida Butsu, which means I put my faith in Amida Buddha, and by doing this chant, and you see it all the time when Japanese put their hands together and they're doing something. That's what it is, right? They might be at a funeral and they're doing this. That's what it is. And so by chanting the name, it's believed that that can lead you to enlightenment, right? Then the other way is the Zen Buddhist road, which is another path where like, well, I'm just gonna meditate until I reach enlightenment. And this is where the road splits, is because a person who's a monk, like they're full-time devoting themselves to living in a monastery and doing Zen meditation, and they chant as well and studying scriptures, right? But for the regular lay person, they don't have time to do that. Now they may meditate, through little periods of the day, but then they got to go run their tofu shop or their ramen shop or whatever it is, right? So the general population is Jodoshu or Jodoshinshu, whichever, because it splits into different sects, Buddhism. And even if you don't believe like that you're religious in any way, the whole Japanese culture has sort of sprung from these principles. Just like if you were to go to Europe, even if you don't consider, like if you're in Italy, you may not consider yourself Catholic, but everything around you has been built around the whole way of thinking, the way that people have their relationships with each other. Whether you think so or not, everything has sprung from Catholicism. So that's
Absolutely.
similar to what's happened in Japan.
So
You're the
my
first
question,
person to ask me that. So it's interesting.
I just think it's like it's those experiences that often, like as you just talked about, mold the rest of your journey in some shape or form. And the reason that I really wanted to dive into that is because I can imagine you going in there and doing that, whereas where you were a little bit of a different person, or even had a little bit of a different perspective on life than when you left. Do you
Oh,
want
I
to tell
was,
us? Do you want to tell us the difference between like who you were, or the perspective that you had going in versus the perspective that you had actually leaving?
oh yeah, 100%. When I got there, I was kind of like this. I was kind of a angry, distrustful person when I
Okay.
arrived, and I think 3 years later, when I left, um, I was a much more compassionate, understanding person.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I was 180 degrees different. And I think, and then when I landed back in the U.S. again, it was finding the space between those two extremes, and it's interesting because throughout the day, like I'm both people. There's part of the day when I'm this really compassionate, kind person, and there's other parts where when threat comes up, then I'm the other person, right? So in Japanese culture, they have this like a saying about being able to use both swords. So like a samurai, he carries a long sword and he carries a short sword, depending on which kind of conflict you're in, right? Like if you're in a fencing match, you're pulling the long sword, right? And it's the battle's going within a bigger space, but there's other
Yeah.
times where you're in a really confined space. You can't draw the long sword, so you pull the short sword, right? It's very similar to police officers. They'll carry a Glock and then they'll carry a Smith and Wesson 38, because with a revolver you can be really in tight and you can still fire your firearm, but with a semi-automatic, the slide has to move and cycle, or you can't. If you're in really tight, the thing won't cycle because the slide's hitting your body, so you won't work, right? So it's
I'm
very
even thinking about Jonathan. I'm even thinking about pickleball itself to relate to anybody listening. Um, like if you're at the baseline, you totally draw, quote unquote. I love this analogy, by the way. It's awesome. Uh, you draw a longer sword at the baseline. Think about like your ground strokes being a little bit longer and more
Mhm.
powerful. While when you're at the kitchen, you're now drawing a shorter sword where it's more compact. The swings are in front of you. If you draw the long sword out, guess what happens? You usually get out of position and body bagged by the person on the other side, right? Because now your chest is open and vulnerable. So for anybody listening, that is a great way to think about why you would keep it short and compact at the kitchen in comparison to having a longer sword at the baseline. I am putting that in my back pocket myself. Awesome.
Good. I'm glad
Absolutely awesome.
something helped. Good.
A question that I have for you, to kind of be relatable to anybody listening that may be in a similar space, was that kind of like fear or anger going into that experience aligned with what your parents kind of, from a safety purpose, right? You talked about them kind of like, hey, we want safety and security out of you because they lived in a period of really fear in the war. Did it come from that, or did it really stem from something else?
So, going back into history,
Yeah.
during when World War II broke out, my parents lived in a little farming town in Central California where like everybody knew their neighbors and it was very like peaceful and everybody got along and it was a multi-ethnic town, but there was like everybody got along really, really well. But then the war broke out and then Pearl Harbor got bombed and now you've got neighbors who have sons and maybe they are over there. There's somebody lost somebody and then all of a sudden like all the frustration, all the anger, and all the fear centered in on people like my parents. And so people that were your friends yesterday now like no one would talk to you. And then
Wow.
like people were shooting into my mom's house, and
Wow.
people you're getting in fights every day at school. And it was like all this kind of stuff going on, and um, people set fire to their garage. So all these things were happening, but at the same time, when I heard about those things, like it makes you angry. But now being older, and then going through the changes that I've gone through, like how could you not understand the people that lost somebody, how much pain that caused, and how could you
Yeah.
not understand how angry they were? Like how could you not understand that? And I think um, through that generation, they did understand that, and so they weren't. Although there was a lot of disappointment, and there was some anger on their part, like this isn't really fair. Like they ended up in these horse stables and then getting shipped off to Arizona in the middle of the desert. You know, although this doesn't seem fair right now, but at the same time, within the context of everything that we know and all the people that we know, and they're not bad people that are doing this to us. They're just people that right now are going through a lot of suffering. And, um, you know, at the end of that, my parents ended up going back east to Chicago, and my mom was in Philadelphia because after about a year and a half, they could leave camp as long as they didn't go to the West Coast, right? As long as they moved away from the West Coast, they were allowed to leave. So my dad ended up in Chicago with his friends, and then my mom ended up in Philadelphia working in like as a maid in a house for some people she said were really nice. And so that ended up being a really good experience because they probably would have never gone to the East Coast and had those experiences, right? And then they ended up coming back and having to start life over again. But like they were resilient. The people from that area were, and I'm not saying that we can't be just as resilient, but like the it wasn't like BS trials they were put through. The people that lived through that World War II era, like they were phenomenal people, and they were drawn to the challenge. And not only were they drawn to the challenge, but they were up to the challenge to go out and create a better life. And they were going to do that no matter what. Not just my parents, but anybody from that era, right? So I think they just reacted and dealt with the situation, dealt with the cards that they had, and they moved forward, right? And so, you know, looking back on thinking about what they went through and like, okay, well, how could I not expect that from myself? How could
Yeah.
I not expect that from my son? Like, so there's those built-in expectations that I have inside of me also, which I think is part of the reasons why I've been able to move forward and accomplish what I have.
So I was just gonna ask that because kind of how I'm putting the puzzle pieces together in my head here is like, do you believe that that resilience that you saw and kind of recognized is what even your first kind of, I'll say, business entity that you went on your own when you were going out of business? Did that seeing that resilience is what really told you in that moment to be like, I'm gonna figure this out anyways?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think, I think, Alec, that resiliency, I didn't find it until when I went to Kyoto and I was all on my own and I was trying to figure everything out.
Mm,
When I stopped, when I stopped fighting who they were telling me to be, when I stopped fighting all that, and then came to terms with it, then I took the fight outside of myself, right? So by taking the fight outside of myself, I could actually take all that anger and all those feelings and turn it against whatever thing I needed to focus on at that time, whether it was making patterns for 12 hours in 42 degrees weather and inside my building or whatever. I could take I could take all that energy and focus it on something that I needed to focus it on. So one time my aunt told me, she said, um, your anger is your sacred stone. Like, don't lose it. It's your sacred stone.
tell
And
us why.
um, I was just it was a teenage conversation with an aunt, right?
Yeah.
And she listened to what I had to say, and then and I can't remember exactly what I told her, but that was her response. Like, don't lose that anger. It's like, that's your sacred stone. You have to use that. You have to use that and to power you through life. Um, yeah,
I
it was
agree.
very good advice.
I completely agree with that. I think something that is honestly overlooked is when you're starting your initial journey that you can call it pain or you can call it anger, but having that almost be like the jump start to moving forward and the jump start to taking action. I usually like to make the simple analogy of why everybody starts going to the gym, right? Most people start going to the gym because they're insecure about something, right? Whether it's the way they look, whether it's the fact that they're out of breath, whether it's the fact that they're mad at themselves for eating all that Sunday ice cream every single night, right? Usually, like, okay, I need to do something about this. I want to feel better about myself. And really, what I'm getting at is that's kind of you use that insecurity, that pain, that anger at the start to really just be the ignition to the fire. And by being the ignition, you eventually find things that you enjoy, right? Or things that you want to keep doing. And then you find purpose in them. And now your fuel is more purpose and passion based, which is a longer term fuel, right? Because that's what gets you up out of bed every morning. Eventually the anger runs out. But I think that some people shy away from using it, at least in the short term. And I agree with you that I don't think it should be something you run away from. I think you should use it as a reason to make a little bit of change, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have time to sit around and bitch, moan, and complain about stuff. I just don't.
Yeah.
I have things I have to get up and do. I've got 25 employees that I got to help put food on the table for. Um, I've got customers out there that need my help. Um, I got a lot on my plate. I don't have time to sit around and complain about things. I have to go do something.
Absolutely. Uh, I want to shift gears a little bit for you
Hmm.
here. First off, I want to start with the the controversy of just people mispronunciating the actual name here. So I'm going to give it my best shot. And then if it's so good, maybe you'll use my voice in one of your commercials coming up, okay?
Deal.
I'm gonna try and give it my best shot here, and you can give me a scale on 1 to 5.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Leorêver.
Oh, you nailed it. Oh,
Yeah?
that's 5. That's
5 all day? Dang,
That's
when's the
5.
next commercial? When's the next commercial?
Yeah. Tomorrow. Actually, we'll do it
Hell
right
yeah.
now.
Hell yeah, you're hired.
You're hired.
But yeah, even for me, like when you first read it, you kind of either go for like Leorêver or like at least I'll say my mind here a little bit was throwing a freaking F in there. I don't know why. I was like Leo forever, and then it's not even close to correct, right? But I wanted to at least set the record straight for anybody listening for you. However, many people now, especially in the pickleball space, recognize your brand, right? You guys made a big splash in pickleball, especially I'll say since probably 2022, maybe earlier, but it's everywhere, right? You're now with Andre Dascu, you're now with Caitlin Christian, Jay DeVilliers, and they have fully bought into Leorêver and what it brings for them on the court. For you, though, what about pickleball really made you say that it is the perfect fit for Leorêver?
Yeah, so good question. First of all, Leorêver, for you that don't know, it means the dreaming lion in French.
Perfect.
Dreaming lion.
Love that.
But going back in time when I was talking about the NBA work and the NFL work, so the problem I had, Alec, is that I had the athletes loving it, the trainers loving it, the equipment managers loving it, but we couldn't get our logo on the court or on the field when they were playing. So, like, everybody just thought they were all wearing these new great tights by Nike or Adidas or whoever, but it wasn't. It was mine.
Why is that? To educate anybody
Because of the
listening.
licensing rights. So, like, Nike and these big manufacturers, they pay enormous amounts of money to the NBA and the NFL for licensing rights to put their swoosh on the jerseys and on the shorts. So it's on TV, right? So they can't have any competing brand like a little guy like us with our product, with our brand on the product. They would, they would sue the NBA. So I thought, man, like I'm just like Cinderella stuck in the kitchen, but I never get to go to the dance. So I go, I don't want to waste my time here anymore. So I turned to tennis, and there was a guy named Marcos Guinon that had double labrum surgery on his hips and was trying to rehab and come back and play on the ATP tour again. So his agent reached out to me, and we started outfitting him in professional tennis. And he went from, like, I don't know, 125 in the world when I met him up to 50. And then he got handed a big sum of money by somebody, so we lost him, right? And about that time, the pickleball thing started happening. So that was 2022. No. Actually, we didn't get involved in pickleball till 2023. It's only been a couple years, just 2 years. And there was a bunch of players that we just gave product to, and one of them was Megan Fudge, and she went from being like never winning a tournament in the APP, and then we put her in our tights, and she won every single tournament she was in. It was ridiculous. Then she got signed by Franklin, so we lost her, but then she had an injury because they told her to not wear the tights anymore. So then she had an injury. Now she wears our tights anyway, regardless of what they say, because obviously it's in Franklin's best interest to have her healthy. Our tights.
Absolutely.
So she wears them anyway. But yeah, we've had tremendous success. Andre Dascu, he had never worn long tights until we signed him in January 2024, just a year ago. And then, like, he just blew it up since then. And now he won't stop wearing the long tights because if he does, it affects his performance later in the day.
Did you tell me a story of him sleeping in those too?
I did. He sleeps in the well, not every night, but on days where he's particularly fatigued, He told me that he sleeps in the tights to get extra recovery and for the next day.
Interesting.
Yeah, and he swears by them. Like, and of course, anybody that wears the tights, I have people all the time coming up to me. Oh my God, I can't. Tennis teachers, I can't be on the court without those tights because, like, I ache, and if I wear the tights, I feel so much better, and the next day I'm not sore. Like, the difference that it makes is phenomenal. I have referees, so I have USA pickleball referees. I've got about 15 of these referees that wear the tights now, and they wear them underneath their pants and skirts. So the head referee in pickleball, the guy that's director of all the USA pickleball referees, guy named Thomas Tadler, he wears them under his pants all the time, and he swears by them. His wife wears them. Like, yeah, it's phenomenal. All the people that wear this product, but you never hear about it. It's a life-changing product.
Yeah, so from my own experience, obviously we kind of discussed stuff, scenes, my awkward body type. Actually, we discussed it even on here. Just coming from a hockey background, it probably looks like a small would be my thing. But either way, I will tell you that you just don't feel as fatigued coming off the court. That is the best way for me to tell you about it. The two halves of it was I tried it in the gym and simply said, like, hey, how do I feel after the gym? Same workouts. One workout 1 week, one workout the same thing. Sleeps were fairly the same, so I'm a sleep tracker too. So I try to make the data as consistent as possible, even for something like this. Nutrition is pretty consistent. So there was no other elements besides the fact that I wore these tights, right? And I will tell you from my experience, the best way to put it is I just felt my muscles felt less fatigue. I felt like I could have done more.
Yeah.
And I think that tells you the same concept that people use in the gym of like, I think it's called, it's basically like a muscular fatigue thing, talking about fatigue still, where the reason that you want to increase yourself in strength is so that when you go and have a lesser load, you can hold that load for a longer period of time, right? So for example, if I can only max out at 200 squat, well, me holding a 150-pound load, I'm going to fatigue a lot quicker than if I have a 300-pound squat and now I still have a 150-pound load. I'm not going to fatigue as quick, if that makes sense. So in your case scenario, the same reference is like, I just felt like my body did not take as much load or fatigue, even though it did, stepping out of the session. That is the best way that I could actually frame it. I did not sleep in them, however, like Andre to ask you. I did not put that to the test.
Yeah, and I don't really suggest that people do it, but some people do it. Do you know who Sarah Ansberry is?
I do know of her.
Okay, Sarah Ansberry, I don't think she's going to get mad if I say she's in her 40s, but she's in her 40s. She used to be a tennis player. And anyway, Sarah is known as one of the most well-known pickleball instructors. In fact, she's the director of the PPR, which is the Pickleball Player Registry, which certifies instructors all over the world. They've certified like 10,000 instructors throughout the world. So she's their director, and I gave her a pair of tights, and she has worn a knee brace for the last 10 years, a really bad chronic knee problem. And she doesn't wear the brace anymore. Like the health of her legs has improved so much from wearing the tights.
Wow.
She ditched the knee brace. When she told me that, even I was blown away. And because of that, she says, okay, now we got to get this to all the instructors in the PPR. So we are the official compression tight of the PPR.
That's awesome.
All these things, they happen very organically for us. And this is a product that, people may see Jay wearing it or Caitlin Christian wearing it, and they go, oh, they're just making a fashion statement. What they really don't know is they're wearing it because they're therapeutic, they're performance boosting, while being totally legal. We're not talking about an illegal enhancing drug. This is something that's totally legal. It's a performance enhancing, life enhancing product. It just happens to look like a fashion product. They're not wearing it because they're hot dogs. They're wearing it because it's helping them physically. It just happens to look kind of stylish. And the other thing also,
The second,
huh?
yeah,
So one other thing
no,
is
you're good.
that
Continue.
we talked about how it makes your muscles more pliable. And one other thing I need to add is pliable muscles, like I mentioned, they stretch and expand and contract and they function better. But the other thing is they don't tear. So, what happens is when you have stiff, hard muscles, you get micro tears, right? And then the micro tears fill up with lactic acid, they fill up with blood. Then you get all the soreness from the adhesions. Like when you start pressing and rubbing, like, oh man, that hurts because you're busting up all those adhesions, right? Well, you don't have the adhesions because you didn't have all the micro tearing going on. Hence, your body's not spending all this time healing itself because it's not hurt, right? You don't have all the trauma on the muscles that occurred. So because of that, like you don't spend all the time repairing, your body can actually focus on other things. So I wanted to mention that. Oh, I lost you again.
Sorry, I muted myself.
I got it.
You're good. The second piece that I wanted to notice is I did try the arm sleeve, and the reason being I really wanted to try it is because especially on my right elbow, as I've been switching from off season to this preseason, there's more on court training. Therefore, there is more wear and tear, especially in the elbow spot with a lot of forehand and backhand rolls. So with that being said, I didn't have tennis elbow, but I had a lot of soreness in it. And I think that's just because I played a lot of rotational sports where I've built up, I'll say, probably a little bit of, I'll say, muscle or how do I put it, tolerance in that area. Because I played hockey, you can imagine a little bit intensive on the elbow, baseball, golf, etc. But I definitely felt sore. And as soon as I started wearing the sleeves from a compression standpoint, it totally minimized the vibration or even the movement of some of the nerves there, where I did not leave that session with a massive amount of soreness in my elbow on either side.
Yeah,
So I at least wanted to know that too.
yeah, it's interesting because it's a very simple product. It's made from the same fabric with the same density as our tights. And this is an important thing. So
Yeah.
if you buy a compression shirt from me, it's made from a certain weight material. The tights are a heavier weight because the tights, we need more support and compression and structure. So the compression sleeve is made from that material, not the one for the shirts. Anyway, it does two things. Number one, it stabilizes the area from all the vibration that's going on that you noticed. But the second thing is it works just like our compression tights where it boosts the circulation in your forearms and your upper arm. And as we get those muscles more pliable, now they relax. And now the tension on the ligaments and tendons going into your elbow, now they can relax. They're not being pulled taut. Hence, that's why you get tennis elbow and pickleball elbow, right? All the tightness, and then it creates all the stress on the ligaments and tendons. They're being pulled really taut going into your elbow joint. Now your elbow starts having issues. So if we can loosen up boost the circulation in your forearms and your upper arms, those become more pliable, they stretch, become supple. Now the tendons and ligaments going to the elbow, they relax. Same concept.
For anybody listening, they're probably curious on how does it boost circulation? Can you give us the brief summary on how it does?
So yeah, the balanced compression, it has a warming effect, and also it has a way of increasing the amount of blood that's moving through your muscles. That's the best way that I can explain it.
Okay. I got another piece to this that people are probably thinking about when they think of your brand, especially in pickleball. They think of these crazy ass patterns sometimes that are on the shirts, right? And it's like, okay, they're loud. We're going to remember it, but why the crazy patterns? So I'm going to ask you, why the crazy patterns on the shirts?
So if you look at the patterns on the shirts, they've got usually two or three colors blended in.
Yeah.
Those colors merchandise and blend into our different color compression tights.
Interesting.
So, yeah, you might see You might see
Huh.
Andre wearing like a shirt. It's got gold and it's got shea blue, which is like royal blue, and it's got
Yep.
white. Maybe it's got black. Those are the same exact shade. So now what he can do is he can match 4 different colors of our tights with that shirt, right? And that's why it looks really cool. Like he'll have a shirt and it's got 4 colors, but one of the colors is gold. So then he's wearing like a blue pair of shorts with the gold compression tights, let's say, right? Or Jay, he'll have like a shirt with teal, black, and white, and the teal matches the compression tights that he's wearing underneath his shorts. So it's a way for us to bring in the colors of our compression wear because we have 11 colors. So it's a way for us to bring those colors into the outfit with the shirt in there. So I came up with all those designs and created all those different prints.
That is super creative and very intelligent at the same time now that I think about it from like zooming out lens, right? You basically tried to find a centerpiece so that no matter what tights, compression wear that somebody came in to want to buy, it would match that centerpiece.
Right. And so a lot of people like, oh, I'm wearing a certain color sneaker today. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear this t-shirt or with us it's like, oh, we're gonna take all 11 colors and we're gonna combine it with different prints. So you can wear those tights and it'll tie into the print. And so that's kind of part of our style and our fashion is to integrate these things together. So it's a look. It's our own unique look.
It is. It's super unique. And the question that I was going to follow up with is probably a lot of people listening the same thing of like, did you ever think like creating the shirt of like, is this a little bit too loud? Like, did you have to balance between like, is this too loud or is this exactly what our brand wants to scream? Like, we want to be unique, we want to be different, we want to be loud. Like, how did you balance the intricacies of really trying to navigate what the centerpiece was? Because it sounds like the centerpiece was the most important part of this design process.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and you have to be a certain person to wear our brand, and we're not going to apologize for it. If you want something that's really, really great, not like what everybody else has. Like if you want just an average pair of tights, man, you can get that at Dick's Sporting Goods. Okay. This is for somebody that wants something more. Like I drive a 2016 Porsche 911 GTS.
Okay.
The car is 10 years old. And I've driven a lot of cars in my life now. Any car will get me to the supermarket. But that car, I love the way that it feels. I just love the way that it sounds. And it gets me to the supermarket, same destination, but it's how I feel doing it. You can go out and play pickleball and be sore and stiff or whatever. You can go out and play pickleball and you can wear a plain t-shirt and that's fine. Still playing, you're still going to play pickleball. But our customer's a little different. They want the best compression tight. They want the best possibility for success. They don't care if they're rocking the colors, and they're not shy about it. Um, they're not shy. So, and there's other, and trust me, Alec, there are athletes that we have approached, and they're like, no, it's not my style. And I go, man, no problem. I get it. It's not
Yeah.
for everybody, right? So, you know, this isn't a choice for everybody. It's a choice for, and everybody knows who they are, what side. There's something, oh, I can't wear that. And that's fine. You should wear what you like. But there's other people like, yeah, they gravitate towards us. So it's a personal choice and something everybody knows what their style and what they're comfortable with. We're just a choice.
And I'm so happy you said that because beyond any, pickleballers listening, any entrepreneurs that are also part of this conversation, like you aligning with your brand, with who you are and sticking to that and not shying away because there may be a big check on the other side or because you're trying to fit into the rest of the crowd. Like that's really what makes you so unique in your sector. And for Leorêver, what allows you guys to stand out and really be known, right? Beyond the fact that your actual compression wear is top notch, but also the fact that you guys don't shy away from who you are, who your values are, and the players that actually take part in the brand, as I just mentioned, buy in 100%. And that's more important than having people buy in at, having 10 other players buy in at 50%, right? Those 4 or 5 that buy into 100% are the difference makers. So I think that's really important to emphasize.
Yeah, thank you. I agree 100%. And we've been very fortunate, like in such a short amount of time. Um, we've got a tremendous group of people, and not just that, but their success too also has really spoken for what we're making.
Yeah, I mean, it goes unsaid that all the players that have bought into you guys have had massive amounts of success on both tours. I mean, Andre Dascu is one of the probably top. It can be argued that's top 2, but probably at least definitely a top 3 guy on the PPA tour. On the other side, you have Megan Fudge, who's the number 1 woman on the APP tour, and
Yes.
you have Caitlin Christian. You have Caitlin Christian herself, who is definitely a top 5 girl now, especially in singles on the PPA tour. So I think it speaks for itself that you have all these players that bought into Leorêver early and are now seeing its success. And it's no coincidence that they're all seeing that success, right?
No, it's not a coincidence. And we signed Caitlin. I had lunch with her in May of last year. We
Okay.
signed her like June 1st of last year. And at the time, she was ranked around 40. And she just vaulted. Like from the minute we signed her, she just exploded out of the gates. Like it was phenomenal. And she loves the product. She's delightful. Like we have lunch probably once every 2 months, and I saw her last week. And yeah, just a phenomenal person. And I've been really lucky because, it's like, yeah, I'll never own a professional NBA team or an NFL team or whatever, but I do have my own pickleball team, and with people that I really, really enjoy spending time with, whether it's Jay or Andre or Caitlin, and like to have personal relationships with them and have dinner, a few times a year and just hang out and talk. They're really delightful people. They all have my phone number, and we're texting and calling, on a weekly basis. So it's kind of cool. It's fun.
That something that you kind of radiate there, and I can see it in your face, is just like that element of human connection that is the game changer in business, right? Uh, because when you're building those deep rooted relationships, usually you're the first person, like if anything close to you and your industry, like you're the first person that individual thinks of. So like if Andre Descu is having dinner with somebody else and they're talking about recovery, issues with injury, the first person he's going to think about is you. Be like, hey,
True.
like my guy Jonathan is let me put you on a phone call with him, right? And that goodwill, as you've recognized and you emphasized in this podcast, compounds over time beyond what you can possibly understand. Yeah, it's kind of a longer path, but it's how you see that J-shaped hockey curve. Like you said, that most of your guys' growth has been organic, and it's what allowed you to be such a reputable, strong brand today, which
Yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah. We've been very fortunate, and but pickleball, it's a long, hard road, and people gravitate to us. Our customers range from being in their mid-20s all the way into people being in their 70s. And, I think one of the reasons why pickleball is such a great space for us to be in is it gives us the ability to help so many people. Someone who is an older pickleball player, they're gonna treasure the benefits even more than someone who's younger just trying to do injury prevention. Like we have guys in their mid-20s who they want to use the product for injury prevention, but we have older people in their 50s that can't play unless they have the product on because it enables them to play. So what we're really talking about is we're talking about a product that helps you fight against time, because eventually time's going to take pickleball and everything that you love away from you. But what we do is we have this tool that allows you to keep doing this thing that you really enjoy doing with your friends and your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or whatever it is. We have this tool that helps you do it for as long as you can, as physically possible. It boosts that horizon to do that. And I think that's the real strength of the product. And I know you talked about the shirts. I really sell the shirts to sell the tights. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I can imagine. Yeah, and it's the way that you've strategically organized that to make the shirt the centerpiece for when they come in. Like they're not saying no to any pair of tights. It's like, oh, any one of these is going to work,
Right.
right?
Right.
It's so smart, strategically smart. A lot of notes people should be taking there when it comes to kind of branding as a whole. Uh, First thing here, if I'm a consumer listening to this, when it comes to like a sizing guide, right, to kind of give them more clarity on what's too tight, what's too loose, what kind of size may I fit into, give us some guidance reference to sizing as a whole on these.
Sure. It's really, really simple. I've tried my best in the size grading and the fitting of it to adhere to standard sizing. So, um, I think when we first talked, Alec, you told me you were 32 waist, right? And so to us, the 32 waist is a medium. Um,
Okay.
34, 35 is a large. And if you go into our website and look at the product, there's a size guide in there that tells you, but it kind of
Okay.
just goes to standard sizing. Like whatever size you think you are, typically is what you're going to buy from us. You told me you were a medium. We sent you a medium. For the most part, it was the right size. Although
Yeah.
I know your thighs are really big and your calves, your ankles a little smaller. So, but for the most part, that was the right size. And for women, it goes like typical women's sizes go size 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, like that. And a women's medium is typically a size 4 to 6. And if you're in that range, you're a medium in our product, just like you would be in another product. So it does go by very standard sizing. If you happen to get your sizing wrong, we exchange product really easily. If you really don't like the product, just return it. We give you a full refund. We're super good that way.
I got a side question for you. When I
Sure.
was doing a little bit of research on you guys and Leorêver coming into this, you originally had the name as Leo Michi.
Yes.
Why the change? Because that's a massive brand change, right? You already kind of released a lot of the line, and you came out, I think it was 2019, and said that we're going to change the name as of January 1st. Why do that?
Yeah. So when I came out of the gate and I was trying to come up with a name for the brand, um, I had this idea, like in Roman languages, Leo is a lion. In Japanese, the word Michi is a path. So I wanted it to be like this path of the gladiator, right? And so
I love that.
that's where the Leo Michi came from. But then as I moved on in time, I go, man, it wasn't elegant, and it didn't have the feeling. To me, it felt like a temporary name. It didn't feel like a permanent home. And then one it was around, say, 2018. Yeah, it was around that time, around 2018. My wife and I, we when we go to Hawaii, we always stay at the Moana Surfrider Hotel. It's right on the sand, Waikiki. Some people hate Waikiki. I love Waikiki. Like all the restaurants and all the stuff going on, and like all the all the happy people. I love it. Anyway, we always stay at the Moana Surfrider. It's right on the sand. If you guys ever a chance to go. And we would stay in one tower, and then we would come down for breakfast, and then you had to walk through a concourse to get to where the breakfast area was, which is on this patio overlooking the water. And in that concourse, there's these two statues of these lions, bronze statues. They're lions with human hands, and they're sleeping. And every day I come down from breakfast like, what the hell's that all about? Like, these are like not even attractive statues, and lions are supposed to be roaring and growling and fighting and aggressive, and these guys are asleep. Anyway, I come down to breakfast every day, think the same thing. Finally, the third day I come down, I'm looking at those statues, and I thought, sleeping lion is just not inspiring. But what if they were dreaming? What if they're not sleeping? What if they're dreaming? And then that was it. Snapped. Dreaming lion, dreaming lion. That doesn't sound right. Then I came up with Leorêver, right? So it means the dreaming lion, but that's where that thing clicked in my head when I saw that, and then bam, that's where the name came from. And then people say it looks like the word forever, like eternity, forever, and just the word Leorêver, Leorêver, Leorêver. It almost has like a magical chant to it, you know, Leorêver, Leorêver, Leorêver. It's almost like a magical chanting quality to it. But it's just a really beautiful, to me, it's just a really beautiful, beautiful name.
Well, because the added element to this of why I asked that question was because part of Leorêver, there's like this I'll describe it as like a sexiness, a sleekness to it, right? Like you go to the page, you understand the brand, the marketing that you guys put out, even like seeing other people wear it. There is definitely, I think sexiness is kind of like the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
So when you're creating this brand and the way that you want it to look, how do you take that creative vision and that pillar, which is kind of so true now to see in the real world,
Yeah.
but take it from seeing it in your brain to then saying, okay, here's how we're actually going to make people think this is a sexy brand?
Wow, that is a great question. That is a
Yeah.
great question. Now, the word that I like to attach to Leorêver is like it's got this elegance to it. And
Yeah.
when I going backwards, I was really one thing that I struggled with tremendously with Leorêver was we really were two different products. We were this therapeutic compression product that was developed for NBA and NFL athletes. There was that, and then there was the other side of all of the activewear that I developed, which really was something I developed for myself to wear. And when I thought about what I wanted that activewear to be like, Alec, if you go back like I don't know, 5-10 years ago, everybody was dressed up with like backward baseball hats, enormous oversized T-shirts, these big baggy basketball shorts, you know, and walking around like that. And you know, I used to dress like that too. And one day I looked at myself. I go, man, I look like I'm a retarded 5-year-old, but I'm like, you know, 50 something years old. I look retarded. And
Yeah.
I thought, man, you know, like I think what I want to do is I want to develop a line of clothing, a line of really elegant activewear that takes men from that point of where they are all the way up and drops them off at the doorstep of the guys that make the structured Wall Street suits. I want to take someone from that place to that place and then drop them off. I want to pick them up here and drop them off there. And anywhere in between, I want to make them look better and more elegant and improve their self-confidence, improve their self-image. So what I developed was on the activewear side, it was this line of activewear that was tapered. And what I did, I took a trip to Italy in 2014, and it like just seeing how guys dressed and women as well, like that how elegant it was and how the patterns were different. So that became the basis of literally I came back, started sketching, and then I came up with the activewear pants that you see in our website, the Le Mans pant. The Le Mans pant, the Roma pant, the Monte Carlo pant, and the American cotton pant, they're basically the same pattern. It's this tapered pant that it's very slenderized and makes you look thinner and more tapered, more masculine in a beautiful way. And then the jackets as well. All of our jackets, they're meant to be tapered and fitted that give you this sort of masculine V-shaped, elegant look. When you look at our activewear pieces like the jackets and the pants, opposite from the shirts, our shirts can be very loud, but if you look at our activewear jackets and pants, they're very subtle, very, very easy to wear colors that men can easily mix and match. It's like you could grab a black jacket, put it together with one of our tactical sage pants, put them together. It works. Like you don't have to think about what colors am I going to wear in my jackets and pants. You blindly grab, put them together, and they'll fit. Like they'll work together as the colors blend together and work together. But it was this elegant line of clothing for the activewear, and how was I going to market that together with the compression tights? That was the challenge, and I still don't think I have that. I still haven't figured out how to quite do that. Like I have these two different lines under the same brand name, but they're actually totally different products, but they're all in one company.
So when you knew you wanted Leorêver, or at the time it was Leo Michi, you wanted it to scream elegance. When you knew that you wanted to scream elegance, what was the process that you had to go through to say, here are the colors, or here are the fonts, or here are the things that are actually going to radiate that this is an elegant brand?
With the color palette, like I'm looking at it on the other side of our showroom. I've got my jackets hung, and we've got black, we've got island white, we've got tactical sage, which is like an olive military green.
Okay.
We've got a graphite gray, and there's a navy, but it's sort of, I probably will get rid of the navy. So we have this very simple, masculine, elegant color palette that we work with.
So is there some psychology behind that when you look into that?
For me, there is. Like I wear a lot of black, and all the colors that I incorporate in our product have to work with black. So that's a very simple thing, because men, we wear a lot of black. So I want to keep you in a place where you feel comfortable and you feel masculine, but I want to give you some other options so that you can step away from the black or use it with the black. So I want to keep things really easy, but still give you the room to go out and challenge yourself here with that color, challenge with that color, and bring it in with what you're comfortable with. So I have to work within everything that works with black. So that
is so smart. That's another thing that I hope anybody that's coming from a branding route, like, jot that down, because you're allowing people to stay in their comfort zone while slowly expanding out of it, which from a psychological standpoint is genius, if I'm being honest with you.
Well, thank you. And then just from the whole the other part that you were asking about, how do we develop that brand imagery? I'll tell you a little example of what really influenced me. It was about reading about Ralph Lauren, who started that whole polo brand, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I have this big 50-pound book that sits on my coffee table that I actually received from one of the polo stores, because I was in one of the stores like 10 years ago flipping through this book, and I think I bought it used from them for like $20, right? And but the thing about what Ralph Lauren did, one time he told a photographer, and the guy became the chief photographer. This is when he was just starting out building his brand. He said, Ralph Lauren told the guy, he said, when I was a little boy, I used to go to Yankee Stadium and watch Joe DiMaggio play, and I used to go to the movie theater, spend 50 cents and and, go watch my heroes, on the screen. And he said, what I want to do, he's telling the photographer, what I want to do is I want to create a cinematic vision for our customers. And so when you think about, well, how did he translate that? Well, like he took you, and you're a little bit younger than me, but like I saw all that stuff go on through all of his marketing campaigns because I was at that age where I saw that stuff. And like he took you to New England, and you're on a yacht with a beautiful girl, and the sun's out and the wind's blowing, and you're on a yacht, and it's just the two of you, and in the middle of the water, but you can see the shore over there, and it's like, wow, pretty soon everybody wanted to do that, right? And then what he did is he came up with this idea, like, well, we're going to create these safari jackets. So he took you to like Africa into a safari, and you're like in the middle of the desert, and it's nighttime, and you see the sun, or you see the sun setting, in the desert, and animals walking around, right? And like, so he took you there, and so like he created these cinematic visions of what life could be, right? And of course, to do that, you should wear his clothing, right? Because it makes the vision better. But like he basically created these cinematic visions of life, and that's very similar to what I wanted to do with our brand. When you see like Attila, like if you look on our main page, it's not a compression wear photo, but the first photo, we keep changing it up. Maybe next month it'll be a compression wear photo that pops up first. Probably be Caitlin Christian. I did these beautiful photos of her in the desert. And I do almost all the photography for the brand. But
Wow.
right now you'll see Attila. He's on the front, and we're in Laguna Beach, and he's got on the suit with the sunglasses, and he looks super elegant, like amazing. And I got it where the sun's setting behind him, and we got the right lighting on it, and it's a beautiful, like we got some beautiful photographs. I got these other photos of Caitlin Christian in the desert, and we're in like a dry aqueduct, and she's standing on the top of a pedestal or something, and she looks like a Greek goddess wearing our compression wear. And I have those photos, but that'll probably be on our website on the main page, next month or something. But like I like to, when you look at our photography and you look at the images that we try to create, especially the ones that I shoot, I'm trying, much like Ralph Lauren, I want to create this heroic vision of who you are, this heroic vision that you want to be. And to me, that idea of this thing that we could become that's even greater than who we are at this moment, that's a huge part of what Leorêver as a brand, of what we strive to present.
This is a absolutely perfect transition into, I want to ask you about the future of Leorêver. I know you are kind of in the, I'll say in between. Like you just said, you kind of have two product lines, trying to kind of fit them together and see how they're going to work. But on the docket moving forward for Leorêver, what is on the plans moving forward into the future?
This is really interesting, Alec. I had this conversation with somebody, a couple of tennis influencers,
Okay.
just a few days ago. And I asked them the question, and they asked me the question. And, in the clothing business, once you, like, I don't know if you're aware, but right now we have we only sell direct to consumer. We do not have any retailers. I've had a lot of.
Everything straight from your facility out in California, correct?
That's correct. You can only buy this brand direct from us. And I've had a lot of retailers approach us. They want to carry the line, but the problem is that no one knows how to sell the line like I do. And what we don't want to happen is it ends up somewhere and then it gets devalued, because when you go into like Bloomingdale's or something, brands get devalued, and then people don't want it anymore. Yeah, we could make a lot of money if we go the retail route, but that's not what really interests me, Alec. You
So
know,
to kind of reframe this for the audience quickly, sorry to cut you off, is meaning that pillar of elegance that we talked about. Meaning if you drop that into Dick's Sporting Goods, it really loses that vision of what the brand is. Now you're just another athletic brand on the shelf with the rest of them. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
that's kind of what I'm getting at. But there's another thing too about it is that, um, I'm Japanese and I joke with people like, being Japanese, we're not great at making money. Like, we're great at being artisans, but we're not great at making money. And it's because um, how we do something is more important than the monetary, say, rewards of doing something. How we do something and why we do something is actually more important. And so, like, the commitment that we live through in my building with all of the people that work here, like, we have a commitment to make the best, the best possible product that we can. And that is what our purpose is. And it doesn't matter to me whether if we've got the amount of customers we have right now, that's fine. If we have 10 times the amount of customers we have, that's fine. But I don't want to change who we are. I don't want to change how we do it. We have to stay true to who we are and what we are. And that's my commitment to our customers. And that there's people out there that someday become our customers. That's our commitment to you, that we're always going to do our best to fulfill this purpose.
So, with that being said, when we were like elaborating a little bit on the future plans, do you plan on continuing with both of these lines and seeing how they integrate with each other and almost letting the path kind of carve its own? Or do you plan on in the next couple of years merging them in some way or trying to streamline them both together in some manner?
I think right now they're just going to exist the way that they are. And I think that we will see like, we have a fitness customer that joins us with our compression wear, and then they end up moving over to our active wear. And I think we will see some of that also with pickleball. We'll have some people that enter the product with the compression, and then they get some Monte Carlo shorts, to wear with it. Like Jay and Andre, they wear the Monte Carlo short with the compression tights and the Matisse shirts. And then they go, wow, I really like that so much. I think I'm going to try that Le Mans jacket and the Le Mans pant, and so we'll see some crossover there, just very organically. We'll see some crossover. So I think right now the idea is just to keep it the way that it is and give people this thing to discover beyond the compression wear.
How about any new athletes that may be joining the team that are not yet out there or released? Do you have anybody else that you're in works and talking to behind the scenes?
At this moment, I think there might be a couple ladies that we're looking at signing. I can't really talk about who they are, but
Yeah.
I can tell you that
Pickleball?
pickleball, yes, pickleball.
Okay.
But I can tell you that I'm working on creating a separate page. Like, we do have a separate page for pickleball right now, but I'm creating a new landing page that I think is really inspiring for the people playing pickleball. And part of that's going to be also creating more opportunity to bring our female pickleball players into the compression tight space, because I know that our tights, and I just know because from what my female customers tell me, what a great product this is relative to what the market's used to using right now. Like, we are an incredible alternative, regardless of whatever compression tights you might be using, or if you're a Lulu fan or whatever is. Our product is very different than Lulu. And I'm not saying theirs isn't a great product, but it's just different. And I think this alternative that we have to that is a really powerful piece that I hope that we can bring um, more females into our space.
So we have we're actually going to have 3 closing questions, and I usually say we have 2, but I've been adding a bonus here, which I've enjoyed some of the responses from a lot of our guests. So I'm going to continue using it. But we'll start with our first one, and every guest answers this. What is one failure you're thankful for today?
Oh, um, well, I think my biggest failure was back in like 2007, 8 period. You know, I kind of followed everybody's advice. At the time,
Tough
everybody was
time.
jumping into like real estate, so I ended up with all this property, and of course, the market turned, and I went into bankruptcy, and it was like the hardest part of any hardest thing I've ever gone through. This whole idea of total absolute financial collapse, where like, you know, you've got $100 in your bank account, and you know, and still trying to keep my company going, you know, but at the same time knowing like if we were making money, the creditors would take it, right? So, but losing my car, losing all my property, um, and just going through that with my family was really hard. It's one of those things like, okay, well, yeah, should I check out today? You know, like I could check out, like why not? You know, but then I got a son, like, well, how's that going to affect him? You know, so like, no, you can't do that. But I thought about it on a daily basis, right? Finally, I met this bankruptcy attorney that he literally, I tell him, Bruce, you saved my life. Like, bro, I'm not kidding. Like, you saved my life. But that was coming out of that, and then out of the ashes of that, I talked about the glove, the girls softball, like all the development for that was going on while I was going through this tremendous suffering through, you know, all the bankruptcy stuff that I was going through. So I had that thing that was going on while this thing was going on, and there was sort of a weird counterbalancing thing that probably kept me alive. But
Yeah.
but out of that failure though, definitely like bouncing back, I appreciated things more, and I was a different person. I'd say a humbler, better person from that experience, and um, yeah, so that was definitely the answer to that question about that failure.
Closing question number 2. Also a challenging one. What is your greatest fear moving forward?
Oh, I think I think my greatest fear um, is not having a sense of purpose. You know, the and I've read a guy that talked about this, and I could certainly tell you it's true with me. Um, I firmly believe that that the key to human happiness is waking up with a sense of purpose every day, and um,
Absolutely.
and doing and fighting and moving towards fulfilling that purpose. And I think that for me, the greatest fear and becoming an older person is like, will I be able to continue to have that sense of purpose, you know, moving forward into my later years? And I know a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to get older, I'm going to retire and go travel. You know, I've traveled enough. There's only so much traveling you can do before every place sort of just is kind of the same.
But the last question here after that is, and this is kind of the bonus question, and I think you'll like this one. If someone was writing a book on your life, what would you want the last chapter to say and why?
Okay. Well, I'm going to leave I'm going to leave this with a little one of my credos.
Yeah. I love that.
Do it the hard way.
Okay,
When I
tell us
say
why.
do it the hard way, whatever you're going to do, don't do it the easy way. Don't do it the way that everyone else is going to do it. Do it the hard way. Take the farthest space from the door, walk to the door in the parking lot. Get in the gym, do the extra work. You know, I know that building my business, going back and actually learning how, like getting in the clothing business by actually figuring out really how to make clothing from the very most rudimentary things. That is not everybody's cup of tea, but I didn't want to just have a clothing brand. I wanted to be, I wanted to be a clothing designer and manufacturer. So I had to understand from the very, I had to do the manufacturing from the very most basic step all the way through developing fabrics, making patterns, understanding how to cut and sew, and actually doing the cutting myself, like cutting orders and doing all that myself. Doing it the hard way for me worked, and it made me a master at what I do. And
Yeah.
the only way to be a master at what you do is to do it the hard way and not take shortcuts and not find the easy way to do it that everybody else does. Because it's not about making quick money. It's about being a master of what you do. And to me, we goes back to talking about purpose. Um, Being a master of what I'm doing and really, really good at it and proficient at it and having that confidence in it, that goes back to having a sense of purpose.
Just wow, Jonathan. I mean, you clearly are a master of what you're doing and really an expert in the field. And so many things that you have shared today, even from an entrepreneurship lens and from an athlete lens too. So much impact, right? So many lessons to be learned, so many takeaways, and a lot of things that people can apply real time as soon as they leave here. So I just want to thank you for sharing all of that with us today, and also getting a little bit vulnerable in your backstory. Um, I think it's so challenging often to share those personal things, but so many people listening are going to resonate and connect with that and be able to take action from it too, knowing that somebody else also went through it, somebody else also had struggles, somebody else also was in the place of bankruptcy, and look where you are now. So I just thank you for sharing all that today. Just so much knowledge.
Well, thanks, Alec. It was great to be on your show. A lot of fun. You got me talking about a lot of things that I haven't even thought about in a while. So
I love that.
it was good for me too. Probably needed to do that.